Okay, before we begin, I just want to mention, in case somebody is looking for a part-time job, that everyone is welcome to teach vegan facts in the comments section. But if you want to be an official teaching assistant, the best way to get my attention is by doing so while wearing our school uniform. Here's an example. You write your name, the word vegan, the country you live in, and your age, all of this divided by underscores. Once I see that you are wearing the uniform and commenting adequately, I will consider that you are applying for the job. What I'm particularly looking for is consistency with the comments that you post and that you are also on my TikTok channel. If I see that your comments are excellent, that your grammar is perfect, that you understand that veganism is not about food, but it's about the animals, and that you seem like a genuinely kind person, I will contact you. Don't worry, I'll notice you. Hello students, welcome to class. I'm Miss Katie, that vegan teacher. Today we're going to be looking at another animal abuser, sadly. His name is Mark Robber, and I've reviewed his channel before, and unfortunately, although he talks about how he cares so much about animals, he still continues to handle them when he shouldn't be, take them out of their homes, and basically exploit them to make money. Unfortunately, we have to watch it. Let's do it.
Drink soy milk, oat milk, rice milk, almond milk. Don't steal milk from a cow. Be vegan, start right now. Follow that vegan teacher, she will show you how.
This is my pet octopus named Sashimi.
Oh, this isn't starting very good. Why are you handling her? Animals don't want to be in your hands. Octopi are terrified when they're out of the water and being handled by humans. Mark, robber, don't be a robber. Leave the octopi in the water. Mark, robber, don't be a robber. Leave the animals the fuck alone. Don't exploit them for profit. Don't pretend that you care. Be vegan from now on and take your audience with you there. Mark, robber, don't be a robber. Leave the octopi in the water. Mark, robber, don't be a robber. Leave the animals the fuck alone.
And this is a vault filled with all her favorite food.
Who killed them? How did they end up there? You should not be involved in any of this. Octopus should be in the ocean and allow them in their own ecosystem to figure things out. Don't kill animals for other animals. We interrupt this video to remind you that your dog can be vegan. This is Bella Vegan Dog. She's been vegan since August 2017, and she's doing great. Why pay for murder if you don't have to? Google vegan pet food today. If you love Bella as much as I do, follow for more so you don't miss a thing.
In order to get to this vault, she'll have to rely on her incredible intelligence and dexterity to make it all the way through this 9-part underwater obstacle course.
It's not an obstacle course, that's a prison.
And just like when I made my backyard obstacle course for squirrels, out of the gate I will admit in hindsight, I completely underestimated the capabilities of this remarkable creature. But
It's not the same thing at all, Mark. When you were doing that obstacle course for the squirrels, they could go left, right, forward, backward, up, down. They were free to go to anyone's backyard. This individual is trapped in an aquarium, in an experiment. Animal testing is wrong.
to understand how we even ended up at this spot, we need to go back in time 6 months when I decided to get a pet octopus to see for myself if they were...
There you go. Look at this. Animals are not commodities. They're not hats. They're not scarves. They're not meant to be in stores and in plastic bags. Have you no empathy? How would you like it if somebody took you out of your home, put you in a store, and then transported you into a tiny plastic bag? You would be absolutely terrified. So why do you do this? I know why. Money. That's why. Just to get views on YouTube. And what you're doing is you're teaching a whole generation of people that it's okay to exploit animals, and it's not. Oh, looks like we have a comment. This is one of our teaching assistants. As you can see, he's wearing the uniform. It's awesome. Mark writes, animal agriculture is a leading cause of ocean dead zones, animal extinction, water pollution, deforestation, and global warming, which is exactly true. Thank you, Mark, for your contribution. And in case some of you are curious, Mark is somebody who is a retired teacher who reached out to me when he saw that there was so much misinformation in my comment section, and he's been helping out for several years. So thanks again, Mark, for everything you've done to help the animals.
Really as smart as people say they are. And after bringing her home to Crunch Labs and putting her into a saltwater optimized and appropriately decorated tank.
It's not appropriately decorated. An appropriate decoration would be for her to be in the wild, in the ocean, surrounded by plants, not plastic. This might look colorful for you and colorful for your YouTube viewers so that they are under the illusion that this individual is happy, but she is not. It reminds me of when you go to the zoo and they have this giant wall and it is painted with a jungle scene. Do you not get it?
I don't understand people. I don't understand the entitlement of people.
She made herself right at home. And the first thing that...
No, she didn't. She made herself try to feel as safe as possible in an environment that was foreign to her. She's scared. She's not happy, no matter what you think.
stood out is just how curious they are.
Look how terrified she is.
For example, when you put anything into the tank, including your arm, they immediately swim towards it and just want to interact.
She is bored out of her mind after weeks of being in there. She is lonely. Do not mistake that for her liking you, even for 1 second, Mark.
Cover this in a minute, but beyond just being able to really securely latch on to things like my hand, she's so strong! Oh my goodness! Oh. Her suckers are also gathering information about me, like my smell, taste, and color. And so after just a few weeks, given how playful she is, it's hard not to form a quick bond. For example, she loved to go up and wave her tentacles in the jet stream, which I assume is the octopus equivalent of a dog sticking.
That's because she wants to be in the ocean with the current. Here's a little reminder. Don't be the vegan non-vegans want you to be. Be the vegan the animals want you to be. Speak out so they can be free.
Which I assume is the octopus equivalent of a dog sticking its head out a car window. She could play catch with us, she had a propensity for selfies anytime she saw a camera, and whenever we'd put a toy submersible in her tank, she would go full 20,000 leagues under the sea.
You mean because she was terrified that you put a foreign object in her new quote-unquote home? It's wrong to use animals. It's wrong to eat them, wear them, experiment on them the way that you're doing here. None of it's okay.
And since no one wants to be the bad guy in Finding Nemo, as much as we'd already come to love sashimi here at Crunch Labs, I did some investigating.
Ooh, looks like we have a comment. Let's see what you wrote here. In the words of Kurt Cobain. Uh-oh. Let's remember, boys and girls, that Kurt Cobain was a drug addict. Somebody who was too afraid to face reality. A coward and an ignorant person who self-harmed. Many researchers have shown that fish do in fact feel pain. They try to relieve pain when they are experiencing it, and they try to avoid it at all cost. Kurt Cobain had no grasp on reality and didn't even understand basic science. Let's move on.
I did some investigating and found out from the pet store we got her from the exact spot they pulled her out of the ocean. The only problem with my plan of returning her was she'd been hand-fed now for quite some time. So the idea was that if she could figure out and remember how to solve an obstacle course maze, then I would be assured that she could figure out and remember her early days hunting in the ocean, and we could send her back home with confidence. Phase 1.
Oh, you're planning to send her home? Really? What about all the animals that are dead in your intestines right now? Are you planning to send them home too, Mark? Yeah, I didn't think so. Hypocrisy much?
Love animals, eat plants. Be brave, be kind, be loved. Be vegan.
One of the plan was to give her some challenges and then observe her behavior to understand what capabilities she actually had. And as it turns out, it's a lot. For starters, their ability to color and shapeshift is unmatched in the animal kingdom. For example, can you spot the octopus hiding in plain sight right here? And the only thing more impressive than that is when you slow it down and play it in reverse to see just how quickly and convincingly these changes occur. And it's not just camouflage as a form of protection. They can also mimic the shape of larger, more predatory animals like eels.
This part is good, Mark. You're showing how interesting octopi are. That's good. But why don't you follow up with some sentences that say, we should not be using them? Why don't you say that, Mark?
And as sashimi shows here, and you can see here, they've even come up with some pretty creative ways to scoot themselves around. And on top of that, there's stories from octopus researchers where they will recognize and shoot water at only one specific person anytime they walk by the tank. And they'll still recognize that person even if they switch clothes with other people. Or there's other stories where the octopus will repeatedly shoot water jets at the light switch to turn off the lights in the room. It's also not uncommon for them to escape their tanks at night to better map out the room they're being stored in, or to even raid the other tanks for food, only to return to their tank in the morning like nothing ever happened. And after a month or two of observation, once we had really come to understand each other, we had all the data we needed to enter phase 2. So after a lot of brainstorming, CAD, 3D printing, and laser cutting, we eventually landed here, starting at the conclusion of the 9-part obstacle course with the Golden Vault. If she can figure out how to unscrew the vault door, well then she's earned the 3 pounds of her favorite food, shrimp, contained therein. And the reason we know it's her favorite food is because over the course of a week, we prepared an underwater seafood buffet with 4 different food options. And all 4 times we repeated the experiment, the aroma from the shrimp was consistently the most irresistible. But
What's the point to all this, Mark? Is it really just to make money? Can you not find another way? Without taking these innocent creatures and using them as objects?
in order to earn that succulent reward, she's got her work cut out for her, starting back at the beginning with challenge number 1, the over-under. If she finds a way to get under this barrier through these rocks, well then she's got to find a way to get over this barrier through these floating balls. And if she manages that, then it's through the green circular portal where she'll find herself face to face with this 4-panel revolving door. And if she works out how revolving doors work and makes it through the next green portal, well then sashimi will basically be met by a wall.
And what happens when she is through different phases here and feeling completely trapped? You think this is joyful? It's not. How can you think that it is okay to not feed an animal unless they jump through hoops for you? Do you also think it's okay to take lions out of the wild and to force them in circuses and elephants? I presume so, given that this is your idea of ethics.
And at this point, it's game over, unless she correctly deduces that by pushing this block out, she can pass through the corridor and continue her journey upwards to the ball drop. And this is where things level up a notch, because dexterity becomes much more critical. She'll be trapped, because the porthole out is blocked by this red gate. That is unless she figures out how to hit the emergency exit button, which will push this glass counterweight ball down off the edge, thereby pulling the gate up and allowing entry into perhaps my favorite obstacle, the fish out of water.
Run, run, run from humans. They're trying to stab you. They're trying to murder you, to call you bacon and burn you in a frying pan.
The only way for sashimi to continue her progress would be to flex her ability to comfortably live on land for up to an hour by crawling out of the water, up, over, and back down on the other side.
Comfortably. It's incredible what you're doing. It's absolutely horrific what you're doing.
I don't understand people. I don't understand the entitlement of people.
How dare you do this to her? And to teach 27 million of your followers that this is okay. Do you not understand what you're doing here? You're essentially giving an entire generation the green light to do all kinds of tests on their animals. This is horrific.
Be fucking vegan.
Be like Joe
Be
Bartolozzi.
fucking vegan.
Tap into your empathy.
Be fucking vegan.
Come on and sing the song.
Be fucking vegan.
And Google watch
Be
vegan.com.
fucking vegan.
where after passing through the portal, she gets a bit of a power-up, because on the backside of the snorkeling fat Gus is a shrimp. Now this is a bit of a throwback to the tourist trap on the squirrel maze, where a strategically placed snack led to a timely photo op.
Except that the squirrel is free. Don't you get it? The squirrel is not in a cage. The squirrel does not have to go underwater for an hour. You're taking the octopus out of the water to perform some sort of a trick for you, so you can make money.
The entitlement of people.
In this case, I call it the Medusa, because the hope is that as she eats the shrimp with her beak on the underside of where her legs all come together, it will look like Fat Gus has 8 braids of beautiful flowing hair. Fat Gus has 8 braids of beautiful flowing hair.
Animals are not toys or decorations. Animals are not here for our experimentations. Animals deserve a Bill of Rights for their protection.
And now that she's feeling refreshed, Sashimi can hopefully finish strong with the penultimate challenge, which is sort of a double obstacle, because there are 6 holes in the top ranging from small to really small. And if she takes the easy route by squeezing through the least small hole, well then she has a lot more maze to deal with, as opposed to the smallest hole that puts her right at the finish. Either way, at this point she's made it here, and if she solves the final puzzle by unscrewing the vault door, she's not only earned the all-you-can-eat seafood buffet, but she's proven she's quick enough on her tentacles to handle being returned back to her ocean home, to the very tide pools she was raised in. So with everything in place.
So that's going to make you look like some sort of a hero. Is that the idea? You're going to return her home? What about all the other animals in the pet store? Why aren't you making a protest against pet stores in general? Oh, that's right. Because you buy from them. The octopus that you took out will be replaced because there's something called supply and demand, Mark. But you know this.
I don't understand people. I don't understand the entitlement of people.
All that was left to do was open this ball valve. And as the smell of fresh shrimp made its way to her tank, she made her way down the tube like an 8-legged gladiator to her saltwater coliseum.
Reminder for Mark. It is the position of the Academy of Nutrition and Dietetics that an appropriately planned vegan diet is healthful for all stages of life, including pregnancy, lactation, infancy, adolescence, older adulthood, and for athletes.
You can be vegan.
Plant-based diets are more environmentally sustainable than diets rich in animal products because they use fewer natural resources. If you care about the future of the planet and keeping it livable for future generations, it's time to stop consuming meat, dairy, and eggs.
You can be vegan.
People all around the world are vegan. You don't need to eat meat, dairy, or eggs. Vegan foods are not more expensive. You can buy veggies, fruits, nuts, and seeds in bulk. You can live a long, happy, healthy life without being cruel. So why pay for murder if you don't have to?
You can be vegan. Thank you for listening to this melody. Now you know you can be vegan. You'll feel great, you will see. Thank you for listening to this song. If you liked it, click the like button and sing along.
She made her way inside fairly quickly, but then sort of just chilled. Like she really didn't understand what she was supposed to do next. But since you can only ignore the ambrosial smell of raw fresh shrimp for so long, she eventually got curious and started exploring. And one of the first things we observed is that anytime she's in a new environment, she kind of maps things out by walking around gathering data with her arms, as opposed to just swimming around freely through the middle. And soon enough, she had things figured out. Now admittedly, this first challenge was a bit of a softball, because having observed Sashimi in her home tank, I knew she was good at digging and burrowing herself in the sand, using the water propulsion from her siphon tube to clear the rocks away. The floating balls were even less of a challenge for her, and after making it through, you really get a sense of how much she sends out her arms as scouts to gather critical information. Especially in the wild, they can reach.
They're so amazing, aren't they? If you haven't yet seen my Octopus teacher, I encourage you to watch that documentary, where no animals are harmed, where it is the human that goes in the ocean and just observes. That's the way it should be, not taking animals out of the wild.
Reach their arms around and inside crevices, not only to smell and taste, but as we'll cover in a minute, even see and independently think. So obstacle 1 was pretty straightforward, but figuring out how to operate a revolving door would be a much harder test. Wow. Okay, I see how this is gonna be. This was my first real indicator that we were headed for a real battle of wits. It was a similar feeling to when the squirrels eventually outsmarted my rope bridge of instability by just jumping over it altogether. And I really should have seen this coming, because as you can see in this video of an octopus escaping from a ship, as long as an opening is bigger than their beak, which is the only actual hard part of their body, then they can eventually squeeze through it. In fact, if we roll that back, you can see sashimi's beak, or mouth, right here. And while this part looks like a big nose, that's actually their main body where all their vital organs reside, like their brain, stomach, gills, kidneys, ink sac, siphon, and their 3 hearts. 2 other cool facts about octopi is their blood is blue because it's copper-based, since that's more efficient in cold, low oxygen environments. And if they lose an arm, they can regrow it completely and it will look indistinguishable from the original.
Which you can see if you go and watch that documentary called My Octopus Teacher.
Next up was the block push. Once again, she got to this point and was sort of stumped without an obvious path forward. But this is where their natural curiosity pays off. Because she's not just feeling surfaces with her arms, but also constantly pulling and pushing to see what she can interact with. And so sort of by default, she figured out this red part of the wall doesn't push back as hard, which cleared the way up to the ball drop.
Maybe Mark doesn't know this, but he should be protesting the fact that it was recently announced that in Spain there are plans to have an octopus farm, the first one ever, which, as you can see, would obviously be torture for these innocent creatures, who are as smart or even smarter than cats. Mark Robber, you should be better than Nikocado Avocado.
There's so many corpses here. Where is everyone's empathy? Why is there so much death in the store? Why do you think you need to buy it? Why is there so much death? Is this a morgue? Is it time to be vegan? Is it time to try it? Why are there dead bodies here? Is this a cemetery? Why are there so many corpses here? Where is everyone's empathy? Being vegan is healthy for all ages, and yes, even our dogs can be vegan too. Please can we walk away from this place of death? Please can we try something new? Why are there so many corpses here? Where is everyone's empathy? Why is there so much death in the store? Why do you think you need to buy it? Why is there so much death? Is this a morgue?
I don't understand people. I don't understand the entitlement of people.
Is it time to be vegan? Is it time to try it? Yes, it's time to try it.
And this was the moment I knew for sure I was in over my head. Because while basically maintaining eye contact with me as a flex, she reaches up with one arm and then twists the bar, which dislodges the ball, allowing her to clear them out and move on. And this feels like the perfect moment to tell you that my absolute favorite fact about the octopus is that they are truly the closest thing we have to intelligent alien life on this planet.
If aliens came to Earth and really wanted to eat you, would you say, no problem, and let them take a bite out of your mom and dad too? If you wouldn't want aliens to hurt you, then leave the animals alone. Don't eat them, don't wear them, don't use them, or take over their home. Leave the animals the fuck alone. Yeah. So leave them alone. Okay? Let them be.
This is a very simplified version of a tree of life. These kind of diagrams show you how all life is related and what evolved from what. How do we know this? Well, by being true scientific detectives and looking for clues. For example, a few hundred years ago, scientists noticed that us humans have 7 vertebrae in our necks, but so do giraffes. But wait a sec, so do whales, mice, elephants, lions, horses, and bats. So that's a clue they all share a common ancestor and belong to this group called mammals. And it's not just neck bones. Watch what happens if you compare the arm bone configurations of a human to a bat, to a chicken, to a turtle, to a dolphin.
Reminder, don't eat dolphins, don't eat bats, don't eat chickens.
It's wild what tiny beneficial mutations and millions of generations can produce. And of course, with genome sequencing developing over the last 40 years, it's allowed us to compare the DNA of different species and sort of check our answers in the back of the book. Anyways, using these techniques, if you want to see where our lineage broke off from that of octopi in the Tree of Life, you have to go back over 500 million years ago to a simple flatworm. But if you look closely, all of what we think of as the smart animals are over here on this side of the Tree of Life, including dolphins, dogs, pigs, horses, humans.
Reminder, don't eat anyone. They're all family.
But even birds, dinosaurs, and fish, and their intelligence and way of thinking are all related to each other, sort of like those arm bones I showed. But octopi developed their intelligence completely independently from everything over here, like an alien from another planet, and that's why they're built just so differently from us. For example, they have twice as many neurons as a cat, but unlike all the animals over here where all the neurons are focused in the brain, in octopi only 1/3 of their neurons are in the brain, and the rest are in their arms, which means they not only smell and taste, but they can even think and act independently with their arms. That means that even if their arm is cut off, the arm can still camouflage itself to the surroundings by sensing light. It would be like closing your eyes, walking into a room, touching a wall, and having your hand match the color. Having 8 independent mini brains along with a larger central brain is as incomprehensible as alien intelligence to us.
Unfortunately, he's going back to the experiment, but that last part was very educational. I'll admit that. And I think if you just taught kids and adults about different animals, that would be great. But why involve them in these experiments, Mark? You don't have to. It's not okay. Is that the only way that you can make money doing this? How much money do you actually need? Why don't you just leave out the experiment part, where you are making the animal afraid, taking them away from their families, and using them as an object by dangling food in front of them for them to perform for you? How would you like it if somebody deprived you of food and safety and then dangled some food in front of you, and that would be the only way that you could obtain this basic need for life, by jumping through all of these hoops? Not to mention that you're sad at the same time and bewildered. Where did your family go? It really is like being put on an alien planet.
Being vegan is like trying to rescue drowning animals, desperately pulling them out of the water one by one, and having your family, friends, and everyone around you throwing them back in.
Sashimi had made it to the emergency button, putting her at the halfway mark. And as usual, she starts by having her arms do all the recon work. And it's almost like once she feels the red door, she figures out my trick and then immediately pushes the button to drop the ball and open the gate to move on to my favorite obstacle, the fish out of water. Now, I was relieved to see that I had thrown her another curveball, because after quite a bit of exploratory arm expeditions, she realizes the only way forward is up and out. And so after psyching herself up, she just goes for it, sliding up, over, and eventually down. And this demonstrates another octopus superpower, because they can survive out of water for up to an hour. And as you can see here, it's one of the reasons they're such successful hunters in and around tide pools. And now that we're coming down the final stretch, I figured she deserved a bit of a snack break.
Snack time!
I'm always in the mood to save animals and eat delicious vegan food. I'm always in the mood to save animals and eat delicious
with the Medusa. And just like I'd hoped, once she saw the shrimp attached to the back, she starts chomping down with her beak. And since that's right at the center of all her legs, we get a couple different hair options for Fat Gus, starting first with a more free-flowing sandy.
What are you doing? How on earth do you think that it's okay for you to do this? To teach kids that animals are entertainment for us. Mark Robber, do I have to play the song again? Did you not hear my message the first time? Mark Robber, don't be a robber. Leave the octopi in the water. Mark Robber, don't be a robber. Leave the animals the fuck alone. Don't exploit them for profit. Don't pretend that you care. Be vegan from now on and take your audience with you there. Mark Robber, don't be a robber. Leave the octopi in the water. Mark Robber, don't be a robber. Leave the animals the fuck alone. You developed this Fat Gus character just for this? I'm going to fast forward through this.
Tiny little sacs called chromatophores, filled with either black, red, or yellow pigment, and then they use their muscles to stretch those sacs like a balloon to achieve any combination of those three colors. Then they've got a layer below that called iridophores that bounce back specific wavelengths of light, giving those iridescent blues like peacocks or beetles. Then there's even one more layer that reflects back ambient light called lucifores. On top of all that, they can also use a muscular structure called papillae to change the texture of their skin, creating ridges and bumps. And because they can change any of those in as little as 200 milliseconds, which is literally less than the blink of an eye, it makes them the true masters of disguise in the animal kingdom.
They are clearly sentient. They are clearly smart. They clearly do not belong on anyone's plate. Leave animals alone. Mark Robber, you should have been vegan a long time ago.
Now she was onto the maize, and you could see she opted for the largest hole, which of course means she had the maximum amount of maize ahead of her. And I love this because it's sort of classic sashimi at this point, but you can see she's willing to play along for quite a while and make just about every possible wrong turn along the way, but then eventually she's over it and just cuts right to the end.
Yeah, do you think she's having fun? Really? How can you tell that she's playing as opposed to being frustrated and scared, wondering if she'll ever get out of this maze? Where does it end? She's not used to being around white walls.
And while that's technically an automatic DQ, I took the high road and let it slide.
Oh yeah, you took the high road. Sure you did. Good job, Mark.
Which brought her to the Golden Vault. After a month or so of training on all the obstacles, she had finally done it. And with the tide on her side, she went straight for the door, ripped it off the foundation, and then immediately basked in the sweet, delicious taste of a hard-earned victory in the largest stockpile of shrimp she'd ever seen. And after letting her gorge for a bit, it was time for me to uphold my end of the deal and give her the Finding Nemo happy ending she deserved by driving her 8 hours down the coast back to the exact beach where she was raised. Having figured out and remembered the solutions to—
Oh, listen to the beautiful music. Wow, Mark, so touching. So touching that you bought this octopus, used her to make money, and then you're doing the wonderful, wonderful thing of bringing her back to the ocean. Shame on you for paying for her to be taken out in the first place. She will be replaced in the store because of supply and demand. What you're doing here is simply theater.
all my dumb puzzles, I was convinced she could certainly figure out and remember what it was like to hunt for her own food in the open ocean. And this was a bittersweet moment, because there's one octopus fact I haven't mentioned, and that's that their entire lifespan is only about 1.5 years. And as a final act, after laying her eggs, a female will continually watch over and protect them to the point that she stops eating and dies. Which meant in the exact same coves and tide pools that her mother did for her, soon sashimi would be extending that ever-changing tree of life by one more generation. Only perhaps this time creating a new branch of super intelligent puzzle-solving offspring.
At this point, I'm hoping in the video that you are going to end it on a positive note by saying to your audience, everybody should be vegan. Everyone should stop hurting animals, should stop kidnapping them. You know what people do to cows? they take them away from their families. If they're boys, they're kidnapped, murdered, because people like you want to steal their milk. Tell your audience to stop drinking dairy. Tell your audience to stop eating bacon. Stop putting 6-month-old baby pigs in gas chambers. Will you do that, Mark? Is this how this is all going to end? Are you going to remind people not to eat eggs? Because in that industry, the little baby boy chicks are also kidnapped and macerated at just 1 day old because they'll never grow up to be able to lay eggs? Will you tell them that?
The egg industry is just a cycle of misery. They lie to you endlessly. Don't buy eggs, walk away. Go to egg-truth.com today.
Will you remind people that they shouldn't be ripping the skin off animals and wearing leather and wool? Will you do all of that? Will this conclude well?
It should come as no surprise she also has incredible taste in toys. But what should also hopefully not surprise you after watching the videos I've been making on YouTube for 12 years is that learning science and engineering doesn't have to be sucky and boring.
Okay, it doesn't have to be sucky and boring. So maybe what you should be doing then is teaching people how to do it, how to enjoy science, but leaving animals the fuck alone. How about you do that? Well, that's all for today. Thank you so much for joining me. If you like this video and you want to see more, make sure you like it, subscribe, and press the notification bell. Help us get the animals out of hell. I'll see you all in the next video. Bye for now.
Let's follow that vegan teacher on YouTube right now. Let's help her save every chicken, pig, and cow. Let's follow that vegan teacher on YouTube.